the meeting is happening, well, just finished happening in the Oval Office between President Zelensky, of course, of Ukraine, our president, Donald Trump, and Vice President JD Vance, who doesn't make many appearances. Let's watch this first clip of JD Vance grilling President Zelensky about what's going on and his assumptions about him.
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you are
Mr.
not
President,
strong...
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come to the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
Good question.
I have been to...
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military?
We have problems.
And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from
a lot of questions.
First of all,
statements.
During the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
That.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember this.
I'm not dictating.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very
You
strong.
will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position.
I
You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
not playing
cards.
cards.
But right now, you don't. Yeah, you're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling with the
president
lives of
anymore.
millions of people.
You think
You're gambling with World War III.
What do you
You're
think about?
gambling with
What do you
World
think
War
about?
III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country.
I'm
That's
with
back
all
to you.
respect to your
Far
country.
more than a lot of people said
wearing
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once?
A lot of times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
you said thank
Even
you.
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some
gosh.
words of appreciation for
What-
the United States
what
of
are you
America
speaking about?
and the president who's trying to save your country.
Okay, so we started with JD Vance barking at President Zelensky about, have you thanked anyone? Do you know what's going on in your country? Actually, he didn't even ask him, do you know what's going on in your country? He was telling him what's going on in his country. Because as we're going to see as we go through these, this was Trump and this was JD Vance stepping out to try to make things look a certain way for themselves as they bark about, do you know what you're doing to the United States of America? Are you respecting the United States of America? First off, they haven't respected the United States of America. They consistently browbeat and call the United States a garbage country. So let's stop with the trying to act like you respect the United States of America. But as soon as Zelensky comes back and says, have you visited, dummy? JD Vance has no answer because he hasn't. Do you know what's going on because you've seen it? No, he has absolutely no answer for those questions because he's not there to speak. He's not there to negotiate. He's not there to talk about ending this war. They're there to posture. They're there to try and make themselves look better. And oddly, maybe not oddly, Vladimir Putin. Because I want you guys to think about one thing as we see this continue, because it continued on for much longer. What they're trying to do is make themselves look good and then make sure that Vladimir Putin sees what they're doing. What they haven't done is had any of these meetings in front of this throng of reporters with microphones, cameras, and everything as they scream at someone with Vladimir Putin. Do you notice that? Because they've had phone calls with Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin gave Donald Trump the cold shoulder as soon as he won the election and said, I'll talk to you when I want to, peon. And he hadn't yet. So then they have their conversations and they're going to have their meeting in Saudi Arabia. And guess who still isn't there? The guy that they're working for. But the guy that they're working against, who I guess not anymore, used to be an ally of the United States of America, is now the target. Now he's the one they're browbeating. He's the one that they're calling all these names. As we saw before, this led up from Donald Trump saying he started the war. Zelensky started the war. Zelensky shouldn't have let this happen. All that is the prequel to what we're seeing here.
If you will speak very loudly about the war,
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No,
Can
you've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not
I
winning.
know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of
we are
coming out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone. And we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
allowed.
cabinet,
You
and not
haven't been
only in
allowed.
this
We
cabinet.
gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid president, $350 billion.
You
We
voted
gave
for
you
your president.
military equipment,
You
and you
voted for
met
your
a break,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about West?
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me.
equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's gonna be a very hard thing to do business like this. I know you.
Business. He says business like this.
I said a lot of times
Except
to American people.
Except that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong.
I want to pause it for a second because he said we want to litigate this rather than fight it out in front of the American media where you have a problem. I'm not sure who called this press conference. I'm not sure. Does President Zelenskyy have control over what happens in the White House and Oval Office around where these guys are having their discussions? Because as you can see, this is a continuation of reframing every reality that we see in front of our faces as someone else's fault. And then when it actually is something good, it's because of them. How is it that President Zelenskyy put together a press conference in front of American media in the White House with these two guys to hash it out in front of the media? Is he in control of this country? I mean, I thought it was Elon Musk, but instead, apparently it's Zelenskyy because it's his fault that they're having this shouting match. Because I think JD Vance started noticing how bad they look. There's more.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going
I
on.
understand, sir.
I think it's very
I understand.
important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful.
Thank
You
you.
don't have the cards.
That's the
You're
main point.
buried there, your people are dying,
tell you
you're
again,
running
I
low
know.
on soldiers.
Don't-
Listen,
don't-
you're
please,
running
Mr.
low
President.
on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
Then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this.
They keep telling him what he's saying.
If you can get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop
Of course,
getting
of
killed.
course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a
But I
ceasefire?
said to you.
I want a
There's the
With
ceasefire
guarantees.
because you get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
There
That's
wasn't with
mental for you
me.
what.
That
what
wasn't
this
with me.
means. It
That was
wasn't
with
you.
a guy named Biden who was not a smart person.
This
That was
is your,
with,
this
that was
is
with
your
Obama.
president, it was your president.
Excuse me, that was with Obama who gave you sheets and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins.
Constant sales job. He references Biden, references Obama, and how Trump gave you this, Biden gave you that. Trump gave you this, Obama gave you that. It's a constant sales job. This has nothing to do with actually getting to some kind of conclusion. This is self-promotion. More.
You got to be more thankful because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards, but without us, you don't have any cards.
Threats. With us, you have cards. Without us, you have no cards. That's the whole point. That's what he's trying to push towards. What he's saying is, I am in control of you. I control you. You, the president of a completely different country, has no control. I tell you what your citizens believe. I tell you what you guys are going to get. And this is what you're going to get. Maybe this is a relaying of the message that he got from Vladimir Putin. Again, carrying his message, which at one point Zelenskyy did point out. I've heard this from other folks. His name is Vladimir Putin, and you seem to be saying the same thing. So he's got the cards. You should probably just go ahead and concede. It'll get the bullets to stop right away. Just concede more of the land that Vladimir Putin wanted, and then we'll do business. Don't forget about that part. So earlier in this second clip, he said that's no way to do business. I want to give you guys a reference to what that's about, because they've been talking about the rare earth, as Trump keeps talking about, that Ukraine's got. I believe it's aluminum. So they want minerals. They want resources. So one of the main things that Donald Trump wants out of this deal is, I'm going to make sure that Putin gets as much as he would like from this invasion of the country. We're going to go ahead and be the middlemen who negotiate some rare earth so we can take it in. They've said this wide openly. So we can take in some rare earth like aluminum because, as I think you guys also heard, one of the downsides of these tariffs that he's talking about, where we're going to get some tariffs put back on us, is with imports of aluminum, which are very much needed in many of the manufacturing that goes on in this country. So he thought, this is great. I'll give Vladimir Putin what he wants. We'll get some aluminum so it can offset all these tariffs we're going to get from other countries that we actually have trade deals with. So as we up tariffs, I can act like I'm doing a great job with these tariffs, and I'll offset it by bringing in aluminum that we'll go ahead and have a deal with Ukraine so we can take theirs so we can end this war. That's what he's hoping for. And that's what they've been saying blatantly and outright. So it's not like I'm coming up with something different. Marco Rubio was out in Saudi Arabia talking about it too. They keep talking about the aluminum and the rare earth that they'd like to take. This is the deal. This is the business that he thinks he's talking about. Again, this administration thinks that the government should be run like a business, except this guy failed multiple businesses. There's more because after this whole thing went down, Fox News talked about how badly it all ended.
Went up to the press area to get an understanding of what we're watching. This is what I was told. The president has kicked Zelenskyy out of the White House. His delegation right now is telling him that he's got to go home. The president felt disrespected. Officials in the room felt that beyond the language barrier that we've heard some discussion about, Zelenskyy's body language, shrugging and eye rolling was ungrateful, disrespectful. And the president feels that Zelenskyy is not ready for peace and he can come back when he's ready to talk about peace, but he's not in that position right now. And Zelenskyy is being told he's got to go. The lunch that they were supposed to have is sitting right outside the hallway, and the press staffers are going to be eating that lunch.
Okay. So he kicked Zelenskyy out of the White House. He's not prepared and ready for peace. This is the next stage of this. So he's twisting and turning it to next being, I told you guys it's his fault. So as things deteriorate and potentially things get worse, he has to make sure he still doesn't blame the guy who controls him for whatever reasons that he controls him. You saw that again. This is why it's in front of cameras. You saw us arguing with Zelenskyy in front of all those cameras and how he's so rigid and doesn't want to, first off, thank America for what they've done, which he does constantly. And then it's his fault for not wanting to agree to what I'm telling him he's going to do. And after he doesn't agree to that because it's completely unfair from his perspective, then the reasons why this is going to get worse is not because of the guy who invaded, not because the guy who broke the deals, the ceasefire deals, and continued to kill citizens. No, it's not because of that guy. It's because the guy who is pointing all of that out and then continues to say, we appreciate what has happened. We appreciate the assistance from, again, a used to be ally. But as it gets worse, the blame has to shift. So they need to create this scenario where that blame somehow makes sense to the people that believe anything that Donald Trump and JD Vance say. There's a statement that Donald Trump put out after this as well, which again drives that point home. They probably had this written beforehand. We had a very meaningful meeting in the White House today. Much was learned that could never be understood without conversation under such fire and pressure. Much was learned. I'm gonna read that again. Much was learned that could never be understood without conversation under fire and pressure. That was the plan. It's amazing what comes out through emotion. And I have determined, Donald J. Trump has determined that President Zelenskyy is not ready for peace if America is involved, because he feels our involvement gives him a big advantage in negotiations. I don't want advantage. I want peace. Again, so you're the United States of America. He's not done. I'm gonna stop for a second and give some of my thoughts on that. I don't want advantage. I want peace. Well, every other time the United States of America gets involved with anything, we talk about our advantages. Part of the reasons we talk about those advantages is because we're the strongest, most powerful, richest nation in the world's ever history, right? So why don't you continue to use that advantage? Is there anything in any other realm of politics, international politics, world leadership, that the United States of America does not flex their advantages ever? Have you ever heard the United States of America come around and say, you know what? Yeah, we got all this money. Yeah, we have all this influence. Yeah, sure, we got the biggest military by far in the world, but I don't want to use any of those advantages. The reasons he doesn't want to use those advantages is because he doesn't want to help this guy. He wants to help the other one. Last sentence of this, after he said, I don't want advantage, I want peace. He says he disrespected the United States of America in its cherished Oval Office. He can come back when he's ready for peace. So he kicked him out. You can come back when you're ready for peace. Did you hear any of these harsh words for the guy who gave him a couple middle fingers after he won the election? Did you hear any of this fire, as he called it, fire and pressure when he was talking to Vladimir Putin? He didn't hear any of it, because the fire and pressure, as we've seen since this guy was first in office, when he was standing in Helsinki next to Vladimir Putin, and Donald Trump's intelligence told him that he interfered with our elections, and he goes, I don't know why he would. He told me very strongly that he didn't. I'm a weakling, and I do what this guy tells me. The only thing left to find out is exactly why and how many different tentacles does Vladimir Putin have up Donald Trump's ass, because he's got full control of him. Here's another very annoying thing that went down. And part of being a fascist is to make sure that you have your media in full control and ready to piggyback anything you say and do as a great moment in history and how you're doing the right thing. In comes Fox News with their end of this bargain.
And I think that, this dynamic, what we're watching shift here is absolutely history unraveling. And we don't know how this is going to end. Will it embolden Putin, as was just suggested, or will it provide space for this deal to happen? But this was an extraordinary, historic example of negotiations. Talk about the art of the deal.
Art of the deal.
Mm-hmm. That's what we saw working in there.
Did we?
And whether or not this is intentional in some ways, or whether or not it was an emotional outburst, and Trump sort of suggested, this is what happens when emotions run over, in his post there. And
so let's watch his post and piggyback on it. Is this the art of the deal? So they'll continue to promote. This is a book he wrote in like 1987. I'm sorry, that someone else wrote for him with his name on it in 1987. So they'll continue to push this promotion of, this is the art of the deal right in front of us. The art of the deal, art of the deal, art of the deal. Is the art of the deal screaming at someone and telling them what is actually going on when you have no idea? Well, actually, that you don't care, because it's also pretty obvious that you're working for someone else. I don't know if they think they're fooling anyone or if they care that they're not fooling anyone. But the point is to carry water. I mean, that's how important this is to them. They don't care how bad they look. Donald Trump doesn't care how weak he looks for the very first time ever. He doesn't care how weak he looks, because there's something very important and there's something very serious that he is married to, that he has to continue on to keep going for this country that was the aggressor in this conflict. The reason why these folks have died, the reason why Donald Trump keeps talking about, your people are going to keep dying. How are you going to keep doing this? When again, the reasons people keep dying is because the aggressor has not stopped attacking. Where is it useful and helpful for this president to take the stance that he's taken and then have this kind of meeting in front of all these cameras where they look like a couple of a-hole bullies teaming up on this one guy who has already been invaded and has all this pressure on him to try and save some semblance of his country?